Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the RNGL show. This is going to be a good show. This is actually going to be part 2 of the 7-part series that I promised to deliver. So yeah, this is going to be a good topic that we're going to be talking about today. But I recommend, if you haven't watched the first video, I recommend you do so you can understand what the hell we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, in the first domain, in the first part of this 7-part series, we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about the origins of the word apex. We talked about the precession of the equinox. We talked about the Sumerians. We talked about fallen angels, gods, aliens, giants. We talked about orcas, sharks. We talked about lunatic scientists trying to communicate with dolphins and psychedelic drugs. It was a party. It was a fun video. I had a blast making it, and I got some good feedback out of that video. So yeah, I beg of you, go watch that video first, so you can understand what we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, with that little intro out of the way, we can now get started with domain number 2 and part 2 of the 7-part series. So without any further ado, let's get started, shall we? So domain number 2, the rivers. So we're jumping on to the top killing machine of the fresh waters. And this species of animal it's a very interesting animal for me, because it is quite literally one of the oldest species of animal that we have on this planet. This animal was roaming the waters of the earth when the T-Rex was around. So it's an ancient being. This animal is quite literally a dinosaur. It looks like it, it sounds like it, and it's absolutely terrifying. This animal came to prominence around the late Cretaceous period, which is around 90 to 66 million years ago. So it has been alive for that long. I mean, the species, not just one particular animal, but the species of this animal has been around for so long. And I mean, rightfully so. This thing is a literal killing and survival machine. The crocodile has skin resembling horny bony scales that protect this animal back, as it protects this animal's back very, very well. As one researcher puts it, against javelins and arrows, the hide is undoubtedly invulnerable. So a very, very tough skin that they have, the crocodiles, which allows them to survive a lot of different environments. But actually, that skin didn't stop the ancient Egyptians from hunting them down and turning them into mummies, because as we know, the Egyptians, they were absolutely obsessed with mummifying things. The ancient Egyptians used to hunt down the crocodiles, kill them, and then mummify the crocodiles, because they believed that mummified animals were intermediaries between the mortals and the gods. So they would mummify cats, dogs, crocodiles, humans, I mean, you name it. They would mummify everything they could. They would do this because the crocodile was associated with one of their gods. They would associate the crocodile with the god Sobek, which is the god of power and strength. And it is also related, or rather associated with the god of fertility. Because it is said in myth, Egyptian myth, that the god Sobek created the world, and with his sweat, he created the Nile River, which the Nile River was very, very important for the Egyptians. But this cannot be so, because there's only one God that created the world, and it's not Sobek. But the ancients would mummify the crocodile and still worship it, right? They would kill it, strip their guts out, and put it in their house, put it in their temples, and worship the crocodile, because it was sacred. They would make offerings to the crocodiles. The way they would do it is with the blow to the back of their head of the crocodile. Then they would strip their guts out, mummify them, and worship them. And you may be thinking that's kind of weird, but I mean, it's not too different from us. We kill them, we strip their guts out, but instead of worshiping them, we wear them. We wear them as boots, we wear them as bags, we make them pants, we make them belts. I mean, humans don't really change, or just our trends do. Back then it was cool to worship the gods, right? To have a mummified crocodile in your house so you could worship the god Sobek. Back then that was cool, to worship the gods. Now it's cool to be fashionable, so we wear them. And like I said, we don't really change, just our trends do. But yeah, The god Sobek was depicted with the body of a man and the head of a croc, like most of the other Egyptian gods. They were depicted with animal heads and bodies of men or humans. So the crocodile was sacred to the ancient Egyptians because of his might and power. Depictions of the crocodile in this form go as back as far as the Old Kingdom, which Egypt is divided into three phases, we can say, which is the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, and the New Kingdom. And actually, the first dynasties are responsible for carving these beautifully carved stone jars and vessels that are made out of hard stones like diorite and granite, which is very, very puzzling to us today, because us with our modern technology and power tools, we would have a hard time manipulating those stones with power tools and electricity. And also, they created this beautiful sculpture of Pharaoh Khafre made out of diorite, which is a very hard stone, like I said. Modern day artists say they would have a hard time recreating that same statue because of how difficult it is to work with that stone. And we have modern technology, we have modern power tools, and we have electricity. So tell me how the ancients were able to do such things with no technologies like our own and no electricity, as we are made to believe. And actually, the pyramids themselves, the pyramids of Giza, which is a whole different video on itself, which I am going to be making. I'm going to be talking about in detail about the pyramids of Giza, because it is puzzling how incredible and extraordinary these pyramids are. I mean, the pyramids of Giza are massive. They're made out of 2.5 million stone blocks, made out of limestone and granite. And also, each one of those stones it weighs between 2.5 tons to 70 tons. And those 70 tons are above the king's chamber, which those stones were raised 70-ton beams, mind you. They were raised 381 feet above the ground. We ourselves would have a hard time recreating the pyramids of Giza. Now tell me how those ancient dudes were doing such things. And also, those stones were quarried 500 miles away with no cars, no power machinery, no cranes, no nothing. They were able to transport 70-ton blocks across 500 miles in order to create the pyramids of Giza. And also, the crazy thing is that the pyramids of Giza are attributed to the 4th dynasty of Egypt, which is under Pharaoh Khufu. But Robert Schoch and John Anthony West have done some tremendous research that show that actually the Sphinx is far older than we are taught to believe, that we've been taught to believe. And I'm going to be talking about it in future videos because it is a very interesting notion. But yeah, the pyramids of Giza still marvel archaeologists and still marvel Egyptologists, historians, architects, and engineers to this day, because it is so hard. It would be so hard for us with our modern technology to recreate the pyramids of Giza, something of that site. The pyramids of Giza are interesting because they are aligned to the star belt of Orion, which is Orion's belt, and also they're faced to face true north, true south, true west, true east, and true west, which it's a very difficult task, because true north, astronomical north, not magnetic north, that varies, but astronomical north. They added onto their shoulders the task of making it precise for astronomical north. And apart from being massive, one of the most interesting things is that the stones at the top are 600 years older than the stones at the bottom. So you go figure that out. So does that mean that the pyramids were actually made from the top down? I mean, it's crazy, but it's true. The stones at the top are older than the stones at the bottom. And in order for them to be able to raise a 70-ton block of granite to 381 feet above the ground, I mean, they would need, Egyptologists say they would need a ramp. But you cannot have a ramp, it's physics, you cannot have a ramp that exceeds a 10-degree slope. Why? Because if you do, the ramp will collapse on itself, or the granite beam will actually come back to you because it exceeds a 10-degree slope. So how long a ramp do you need in order to raise that 70-ton beam to 381 feet above the ground? And the answer is you need a freaking long ramp. And we find no parallels. There's nothing like that on Egypt. We would have found something like that already. So when you start putting into perspective the idea of them doing it with copper chisels and ramps, it starts to be absurd. But I'm gonna go into detail more in future videos about the pyramids of Giza. And the crazy thing is that as time went on, the works of the Egyptians, they actually got cruder and cruder. Quite honestly, they got worse. And you would expect for a society as the Egyptians, as they advance, for their works to get better. But it's the opposite. It is the total opposite. They get worse. Their sculptures get worse. Their jars they cannot manipulate with diorite and granite. They start using softer stones like limestone and marble because they forget. It's like that skill is being lost through time, which actually ties in with the theory that Egypt is a legacy from a much richer, much ancient, much far more complex lost civilization that has been lost now through time to us in antiquity. And I want to quote directly from this book. It's called Fingerprints of the Gods. It is a tremendous book. I recommend everyone go get it. It's The Evidence of Earth's Lost Civilization, Fingerprints of the Gods, Graham Hancock, one of my favorite authors. I actually fall asleep listening to his lectures, not because they're boring, but because it is. I stay up late listening to his lectures, watching him talk. I cannot get enough of this man, and I'm calling it right now, guys. You guys are my witnesses. I'm gonna interview one day. I'm gonna interview this man. I'm gonna have him here. I'm gonna interview him. I don't know how. I don't know when, but I will. Trust. But anyway, I want to quote directly from his book, Fingerprints of the Gods, and he's quoting John Anthony West. And this is what he has to say. He says, John Anthony West, he's done tremendous research on Egypt. He doesn't have the credentials of an Egyptologist, but I mean, the guy is as far as it gets. It's as close as it gets to a true historian and archaeologist. I mean, the guy has done some tremendous research on Egypt. So he asks, how does a complex civilization spring full-blown into being? Look at a 1905 automobile and compare it to a modern-day one. There is no mistake the process of development. But in Egypt, there are no parallels. Everything is right at the start. The answer to the mystery is, of course, obvious, but because it is repellent to the prevailing cast of modern thinking, it is seldom considered. Egyptian civilization was not a development, it was a legacy. So John Anthony West is not just pulling information out of his butt as we speak, saying that Egyptian civilization was not a development but a legacy. The Egyptians themselves talk about them being the survivors of a lost civilization, that they're a legacy, that they're survivors of a global cataclysm that happened long ago. The survivors of that city came to Egypt and tried to restart their society. Those same survivors are what we call Egyptians, the Egyptians of modern day Egypt, or rather, the ancient Egyptians. They said that they were survivors of this great lost civilization. And the notion of a lost civilization has been around for a very long time. We actually get that notion from Plato. The Egyptians said that they were descendants of survivors of Atlantis, the lost city of Atlantis. And we actually get that story from Plato. And Plato is a Greek philosopher. And he actually got that story through his family line. One of his forefathers, Solon. He went to Egypt. He spent 10 years on Egypt, on the Temple of Sais in the Delta, which sadly that temple has now been lost to us because of the waters of the Nile. It's under swampland as we speak. But he spent 10 years on Egypt, Solon, and he was talking with the priest of the Temple of Sais in the Delta. And the story of Atlantis was written all over upon the walls. And they said that the Egyptians were survivors of this great civilization that was now lost, that was destroyed by a global flood, by a global cataclysm. Plato wrote about this city of Atlantis, this ancient lost civilization of Atlantis, in 360 BC in his books Critias and Timaeus. And Solon, he asked, when was this great civilization lost? What was this great civilization about? Well, the Egyptians, they told him that Atlantis was created by the god Poseidon. And if you watched last video, we talked about how the fallen angels correlate with the gods of antiquity, which I believe, truly believe, that the gods of antiquity were just fallen angels that came to earth. The Bible talks about them. And one of those fallen angels was Poseidon. And he married a human woman named Cleito. And he had 5 sets of twins, so 10 children. And his older child was Atlas, which he was a mythical king. So in the city of Atlantis, gods, mortals, and demigods, meaning hybrids, half god, half human, walked the earth and lived on that city. And they said that those inhabitants of Atlantis, they were very advanced. That Atlantis was a very advanced civilization. They had advanced knowledge in every area, from geometry, astronomy, mathematics, philosophy, biology, you name it. They were advanced enough to travel the world. They had advanced seafaring skills. They could travel the world. They could map the world. They built huge megalithic sites. They had advanced arts and crafts. They were rich, prominent, and wealthy. But something happened, says Plato. They became greedy. They became avaricious. They became cruel. They became immoral. They became corrupted. They started to impose their will on others. He has a very ringing phrase. He actually says, they ceased to wear their prosperity with moderation. They fell in disalignment with the plans of the Creator, he says. And in a single day and night of misfortune, Atlantis was sunken beneath the depths of the ocean, never to be seen again. When did this happen? When was this great civilization lost? When was this great civilization destroyed? Solon asked. The priest told him, 9,000 years ago. As Plato says, 9,000 years before the time of Solon. We know Solon. We know who he was. He was a Greek lawmaker. He was a Greek statesman, a Greek lawmaker. He lived in 600 BC. So that's 9,600 BC. In our modern day calendar, that's 11,600 years ago. The view of historians is, of course, Plato made the whole thing up. He just made it up to make a political point. It's a story that he made up to compare Atlantis to Athens, because Athens was becoming greedy, corrupted as well. So he just made the story up to make a political point. He just made it all up. Well, modern technology comes along. Modern geology comes along in our day. And it shows that truly 11,600 years ago was truly a cataclysmic episode on the planet. It's called, this is scientific, this is no conspiracy. It's called meltwater pulse 1b. We see the last ice age as the last ice age is coming to an end, the Younger Dryas. We see the ice caps, the North American ice caps, and in the Europe ice sheets. They start to crumble and melt onto the oceans in a span of 24 hours. So in a single day, quite literally a single day, we see a huge 400-foot level rise on the oceans, creating havoc on the earth, creating massive floods. One massive flood. that cataclysm, or that episode, Meltwater Pulse 1b, was quite capable of having wiped out a whole civilization. That happened 11,600 years ago. If Plato made the whole thing up, if Plato was making it all up, he was just astonishingly on the money with the latest geology. He was just astonishingly on the money with the latest geology. How could they know? How could Solon know? How could the Egyptians know? How could Plato know? He gave us the exact date. And now modern day science is proving it, that 11,600 years ago, indeed, a great cataclysm happened. It is called Meltwater Pulse 1b. If that cataclysm were to happen today, if that were to happen, what happened 11,600 years ago, if that were to happen again today, New York, Boston, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Houston, New Orleans, Florida, London, Berlin, Hong Kong, Beijing, all of those cities, millions of people walk upon those cities as we speak right now. By tomorrow, gone, completely submerged beneath the depths of the ocean. Gone. And I don't believe that our civilization would survive such a cataclysm. Humans would survive, but our civilization as we know it would not survive. Contrary to what we believe of ourselves, we have this hubris, we have this conceit about ourselves. We believe ourselves to be so mighty and untouchable. If that were to happen again, our civilization would not survive. Just look at what happened in 2020, COVID-19. That was a small, minute inconvenience in comparison to what happened 11,600 years ago. People were emptying the stores, people fighting over toilet paper, fighting each other. Some of them even looted. If that were to happen again, the grid will go down instantaneously. There's no light, there's no electricity. No electricity, no internet, no communication. We cannot communicate with one another. No electricity means no phones, no computers. And all of our data is stored on hard drives. All of our data is literally stored on electronics. If the grid goes down, all of that is lost. There's no electricity, there's no gas. No gas means no truckers. No truckers means no food in our stores. Food in our stores is just on a timely basis. 3 days and you got people starving already on the cities. Stores are emptied. 3 days, stores are emptied. 2 weeks, cars are useless. 3 weeks, people are starting to panic. People are starting to feel hunger. And they're starting to loot one another. They're starting to riot. They're starting to steal from one another. 1 month, and it's absolute madness. Total anarchy on the planet, around the globe. Survival of the fittest, quite literally. You take care of you, I take care of me. I'm hungry, so I might steal from you. And you're hungry, so you might steal from me, so I cannot trust you. It's madness. Quite literally. We would destroy each other. And also, 10,000 years from now, the survivors of this great cataclysm, of this great civilization, the descendants may talk about how there was once a time where a great civilization existed with powers so miraculous. You know, they could travel the world. They could build huge megalithic sites. They called them skyscrapers. Their buildings were so big and so huge that they could almost scrape the skies, touch the clouds. They could fly through the air. They could communicate with one another through thin air. They could send messages to one another from across continents and oceans. They had beautiful art. They made beautiful music. They could go to the moon, allegedly. But something happened. They became greedy. They became avaricious. They became hubris. They became greedy. They became cruel. They became corrupted. They became immoral. They started to impose their will on others. They ceased to wear their prosperity with moderation. They fell in disalignment with the plans of the Creator. They displeased the Creator. And in a single day and night of misfortune, America was destroyed, never to be seen again. There's something to learn from the story of Atlantis. All of ancient cultures talk about a great flood that destroyed evil humans. All of them. Those stories are written in myth for us to just hear and listen. If that is true, which now modern day science is proving it to be true, our whole history is being rewritten as we speak. Our whole history is being revisioned as we speak. Drip by drip. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not next month. Maybe not even next year. But soon enough, there will be a paradigm shift. And our whole understanding of the past will be changed radically, drastically, and dramatically. And I want a piece of it. I want a piece of it. I want some of it. I want to contribute to that. That's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's exactly why I'm talking about it. And I want to quote directly again from Graham Hancock right here. And he's quoting from the Book of the Dead, which is an Egyptian book that was found in Pharaoh Seti I, which is allegedly Thoth, the god of writing, talking. And he says, referring to humans, they have fought fights, they have upheld stripes, they have done evil, they have created hostilities, they have made slaughter, they have caused trouble and oppression. Therefore, I'm going to blot out everything which I have made. This earth shall enter into the watery abyss by means of a raging flood, and will become even as it was in primeval time. We see the Egyptians talk about this flood in myth. I want to keep quoting. He says, on the trail of mystery, with the words of Thoth, we have come full circle to the Sumerian and biblical flood. The earth was filled with violence, says Genesis. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Like the flood of Deucalion, the flood of Manu, and the flood that destroyed the Aztecs' fourth son, the biblical deluge was the end of a world age. A new age succeeded it, our own, populated by the descendants of Noah. From the very beginning, however, it was understood that this age too would come in due course to a catastrophic event. As the old song puts it, God gave Noah the rainbow sign. No more water. The fire next time. He keeps saying, the scriptural source for this prophecy of world destruction is to be found in 2 Peter 3. He quotes, we must be careful to remember that during the last days, there are about to be people who will be scornful and who will say, everything goes on as it has since it began at the creation. They are choosing to forget that there were heavens at the beginning, and that the earth was formed by the word of God, out of water and between the waters, so that the world of that time was destroyed by being flooded by water. But by the same word, the present sky and earth are destined for fire, and are only being reserved until judgment day, so that all sinners may be destroyed. The day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, and then with the roar the sky will vanish, the elements will catch fire and fall apart, and the earth and all that it contains will be burnt up. Very, very interesting. So legends talk about the flood being the end of a world, of an age. It was destroyed by water. But the second age, our own, came right after that. And it was understood as well that this age would come to a catastrophic end. Not by water, but by fire. He says, we're on the trail of mystery here. And while we may never hope to fathom the plans of the Creator, we should be able to reach a judgment concerning the riddle of our converging myths of global destruction. Through these myths, the voices of the ancients speak to us directly. What are they trying to say? What are the ancients trying to tell us? If history is wrong, which apparently it is, being proven every single day, like I said, drip by drip, slowly but surely, what else is wrong? What else are they lying about? What else are they wrong about? I can only hope to unravel those truths. So join me. Let's unravel those truths together. Let's unravel the mysteries. Let's explore the possibilities. This world is stranger than fiction. And in a world full of lies, the truth sounds crazy. I don't want to scare you anymore, guys. So let's keep talking nature as of now, okay? But it is a very interesting notion. We're going to be talking about this more into detail in future videos. But for now, let's keep talking about crocodiles. So, crocodiles have around 66 teeth, and they can grow to 5 inches long, and they're able to apply with their jaws up to 3,700 pounds of force when they shut their mouths closed. Which in comparison, lions can only apply 1,000 pounds of force, which is nothing in comparison to the crocodiles. In fact, the crocodiles are the strongest. They have the strongest bite force of the animal kingdom. And humans, to compare it with humans, we can only apply 160 pounds of force, so nothing. And I mean, just do this. If you apply enough force, you can rip a chunk of flesh of yourself apart. Like, you can rip it off. Now imagine a crocodile, what it can do. With 3,700 pounds of force, it can literally shatter bones. Crocodiles can grow as big as 23 feet, but that's some rare cases. But on average, they grow to be around 7 to 17 feet, depending on its location. And they're actually found in every tropical region from Africa, Asia, the Americas, and Australia. They can weigh between 900 to 1,300 pounds. And the bigger ones, in the bigger cases, which is rare, but on the bigger cases, they can get to 2,000 pounds, so a tank of an animal. They can swim at speeds of 15 miles to 18 miles per hour, which they can maintain for long periods of time, which is actually 3 times faster than Olympian gold medalist Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps can only reach speeds of 4.7 miles per hour swimming. Crocodiles can get to 15 to 18 miles per hour on the water. So we're definitely not outswimming this monster. Although they're swift on the water, in land, they're quite sluggish, and they are not quickly and they're not as fast in the land as they are in the water. A relatively fit person could outrun a crocodile. Crocs can still sprint in short bursts of 15 miles per hour, so you got to be careful when you're around them. They can be quite explosive, but they're more sluggish. It's easier to outrun them on the land by far. Their main way of propelling themselves is by swinging their powerful tails in a snake-like pattern. So they swing their tails like in a snake-like pattern, so they can propel themselves forward. And they can actually propel their bodies out of the water by 5 feet. So they can jump out of the water 5 feet with their powerful tails. They use their paws in order to steer the way they want to go. So they will change directions with their paws whenever they want to change direction or go into a certain way. But whenever they're swimming at top speeds, they will actually tuck their paws in to reduce dragging, so they can be more swift and faster on the water. The crocodile is actually an excellent hunter, and they hunt everything from fish, birds, frogs, and other mammals. Anything they can get their jaws on, they'll eat. They're nocturnal, so for the most part they're hunting at night. So they're pretty active at night. They're more active at night, and during the day they prefer to rest and sleep. And actually, you can see the crocodiles at night because their eyes glow red in the night. So they're terrifying. So if you're ever swimming around a river and you see 2 red dots popping out from the water, run or swim as fast as you can. Even though you're not gonna swim this monster, right? You're gonna get eaten. But get away. Just get away. Crocodiles are ambush animals for the most part, so they wait for the prey to get as close as they can. And once they're close enough, they will actually pounce and catch the prey and bite them with their 3,000-pound force bite. And once the prey is on their jaws, it's going to be very, very difficult to get away. Once the crocodile has them on their jaws, they will do a maneuver which is called death roll, which they start spinning around violently in order to tear off a limb or a piece of flesh from the prey.
Cunning and patient, he stalks a small family of feral pigs. A pig would provide him enough fuel for a month. Only eyes, ears, and nostrils break the surface as he shadows his prey. He stealthily repositions as his target moves along the bank, then waits for the pig to come to him. Crocs can't chew, so to break up his catch, he spins. This deadly ballet is the infamous death roll. If Nero's killing spree continues, he will soon be large enough to threaten most of his neighbors in the river.
And once they have it once they have that piece of meat that they want on their mouths, they won't even chew. They won't even chew the meat. They'll just swallow it whole. So when they do this, they swallow a lot of air, which produces a biological reaction in their tear glands, and they start shedding tears. So from this, the ancient Latin myth, the Romans would see them just chomping up on prey and doing the death roll on animals. And once they have the meat, they would just swallow it whole. And they would see them crying, which was apparently crying, but they were not crying. They were just shedding tears because it is a biological reaction. They felt no remorse at all. They were hungry. So from there, the saying comes, crocodile tears. I remember my mom used to tell me, "You're crying crocodile tears." Me decía, lágrimas de cocodrilo, crocodile tears. So from this story, from this tales, comes the saying crocodile tears, which is when someone is crying and they don't really feel bad. That comes from this. Modern day science has actually proved it to be true. So whenever your girlfriend is crying because she cheated on you, just tell her you're crying crocodile tears. And she's gonna be like, "Oh my God, what do you mean crocodile tears?" And you tell her what it means. Crocodile tears because the Romans would see the crocodiles chomping on flesh and ripping limbs apart and then chomping on them, and it would see like they were crying, but they were not actually crying. They were just getting air into their tear glands, which made the illusion that they were crying. So it's called crocodile tears, and they felt no remorse, and this is what you're doing right now. And then she's gonna be like, "Oh my God, he's so smart. Why did I cheat on him?" And then you can thank me. You can be, "Oh, I got that from RNGL from the RNGL show. So I got you, boys." So yeah, pretty interesting. And actually, the food they have on their stomach, it's gonna take them a very, very long time to digest. So what they do, they'll go around and they swallow pebbles and rocks in order for them to grind up the meat in their stomach, so they can grind it up with the pebbles and rocks that they've swallowed. Crocodiles can go without food for 2 years, so they can have a meal today, and 2 years from now, they'll have another meal. That's why they're so good at surviving, and that's why they've been around for so long. Researchers say that crocodiles are intelligent beings capable of complex parental caring, and they're capable of using tools to hunt, and they also have been seen hunting with strategy. Crocodiles were observed swimming around a shoal of fish, which is a ball of fish, and what they would do is, as a group, they would start swimming around the fish, and they'll make the circle tighter and tighter and tighter until the fish were all packed together. And then they would take turns swimming through the shoal of fish so they can have a nice snack. And they have been observed using tree branches on their snouts in order to trap birds into perching on the tree branch and then pouncing on them. So they're quite intelligent, contrary to what we may think. I mean, you look at them and they look pretty dumb, but apparently they're very smart and they hunt with strategy. So very interesting. And as if these animals were crazy enough, they can also climb trees. I mean, the bigger ones don't really climb trees, but the smaller ones, they're capable of climbing trees. So you're not gonna get away from them by swimming. If you're too close to them, you're gonna get bitten. And if you climb a tree, they can also climb trees. It is said that they do this, they climb the trees in order for them to surveil their territory and also so they can regulate their body temperatures, because they're cold-blooded beings, meaning they're reptiles, they don't sweat. So they need to go outside in order for them to regulate their body temperature. They need the heat of the sun in order for them to cool down or warm up. But in order to avoid overheating, they hang out with their mouths open. So you may have seen videos or pictures of crocodiles just hanging out with their mouths open. And they're doing this so their bodies can get warm and their brains won't get overheated. They hang out with their mouths open. And actually, their jaws are so sensitive that they're more sensitive than human fingertips. They can feel a piece of sand falling on their jaws, and once they feel that, it triggers a reaction, which is they close their mouth shut. It's a reaction that it is triggered by feeling something on their jaws. So they do this so they can maybe catch a delicious prey. A bird perches there, they snap it shut, and they have a free meal without having to spend too much energy. Sometimes it's one of their friends' foot. I mean, just watch this. Or sometimes it has a trainer's head.
Oh, that was real. Her mom's jumping.
I mean, that guy is lucky that this crocodile didn't do the death roll on him. Just give him a little, don't mess with me. That guy would literally be headless, because if that crocodile decided to, that man would be dead right now. Crocodiles usually mate during January and February, and once the female has become pregnant, she will lay around 25 to 50 eggs. And the temperature of the nest will actually determine the gender of the offspring. So if the temperature is around 88 degrees Fahrenheit, males would develop. But if it's above or lower than 88 degrees, females would develop. So very interesting. The temperature of the nest will actually determine the sex and the gender of the animals, of the offspring, of the little baby killer crocs. The female will take care of her eggs for around 3 months, and once they hatch, they will carry the offspring on their jaws to the river and then let them go. And they're free to do whatever they want now. They're on their own. Which is sad, because 99% of those little babies are gonna get eaten by older crocodiles and bigger crocodiles. So they're gonna become crocodile food soon enough after that, which is a big yikes. Crocodiles are literally prehistoric animals, quite literally dinosaurs. They're survival and killing machines. They're adapt for their environment to survive. And that's what makes them the top killing machine of the rivers. So with that note, we're done with today's domain. So thank you very much if you stayed all the way to the end. It is a long video, so I thank you if you watched it all the way to the end. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Share it with a friend. Comment down below what you think about this animal. Comment down below if you believe another animal can challenge the crocodile as the top killing machine of the rivers. So with that being said, if you want to like the video, like it if you want to, subscribe if you want to, turn on the little bell notification if you want to. Yeah, thank you everybody. Stay tuned for the rest of the videos. And that's it for me. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.